Oh, hello. Welcome back, everybody. Corgi XP here. And today's episode of our Data Pack Dash is going to be super cool because we're going to be going over what's called predicates. Predicates allow you to do so many different things, such as check, player entity properties or other entity properties. It can see if you're, sneaking. It can see if a block exists somewhere specifically, and they can do so much more. Since they can do so much, we're just going to be going over kind of the more basic stuff with it for now. In later episodes, we'll get a little bit more advanced with it, but for now, we're just going to go over some basic stuff that you can do. So, for example, we're going to be showing you how you can actually detect if a player is sneaking from that predicate. We'll also detect specific blocks that we can walk over, and we can also use it to detect if we're doing both. So we can basically sneak while on top of a specific block type, and then something can happen. And I can show you how you can do it either by chaining two predicates together or combining one predicate together, and you only have to run the one once. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get on into it. Grab that notebook, drop a subscribe, drop a like, join our Discord, and here we go. So in our first episode, we went over the basics of data pack creation, and we set up our first data pack. Just as a very quick, reminder, let me go ahead and bring up our folder so you can kind of see, the setup of it again. So in the Minecraft folder, you have your saves world. So if we go into saves, you'll see where our data pack dash is. And under the data packs folder is where we put in our my first data pack. So we open up this and we created our pack.mcmeta file, our data folder, excuse me. And within that, we have our Minecraft folder and the MyPack folder. In the Minecraft folder, it basically tells you the tags and two function files of load and tick. And that basically just tells you what files to load on every load and on every tick. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that real quick. So load and tick, and this just basically tells you, what to load every load, what to run every tick. And then if we go back into my pack, this is where you put all of your, function files, your predicates, advancements, loot tables, world generation, pretty much anything you want your data pack to do will go into your namespace or my pack folder. So as you can see, we just have our, different types of files in there. So let's go ahead and close this out because we actually don't need this anymore, because we're going to be strictly using VS Code. And VS Code allows you to open up the Explorer and open that folder directly, so everything will be shown, here. And it's just much easier, to work with. And remember from last time, when you do download VS Code, you're going to come into extensions and you're going to download a syntax, MC function, and a data pack helper. These just help to create data packs a lot easier, because when you open up a file, so for example our pack.mcmeta, as you can see, it gives you very clean format coloring, and as you're typing in certain things, it'll help you determine what technically should be coming up next. It's very smart in knowing kind of what's happening. So let's go ahead and create our first predicate. And I think what we're going to do is we're basically just going to check to see if a block is stone. I set up some stone and some sand, and I'll show you kind of both in a second. What right now, we're just going to check to see if we walk on stone. So what we can do is under the my pack, notice how we have the function folder already. So we just want to make sure we're clicked on my pack, and we're going to do new folder, and we're going to call it what's called predicate. So under predicate, now we have the function folder and the predicate folder. So if we click on predicate, we can now do new file, and we're going to call this onstone.json. So predicate files, advancement files, loop tables, stuff like that, they're what's called .json files, similar to load and tick.json from your Minecraft tags. So we want the onstone.json, and it'll automatically open it up for you. As you can see, it's red because there's, nothing in here right now, but we're going to go ahead and create it right now. The way we're going to use this setup is what's called a location check. Location check allows you to basically check what's happening at that specific location. So for the predicates, it starts off as an object. So we start with the open curly brackets, and we need to set what's called a condition. The condition is the predicate kind of like itself, telling you what type of condition needs to match. So if we notice how it automatically filled this out, so if we just tab, it'll automatically put in condition for us. So now we can tell what the condition is, and we want this to be Minecraft, and it'll again give you specific things that it knows what condition is allowed. And we want location check. Nice. So it automatically fills it out for us. So we need a comma because we need a new item. So now we need to call what's called predicate. So the predicate one basically tells you or gives you the data of what we're checking for that location check. So let's do predicate right there, and let's start up with another object. And here, as you can see, there's a couple different items. So we have biomes, which will tell it like at that location check for a specific biome. Block will check for a specific block, and see sky, like if you can actually see the sky. Dimension, if you're in a specific dimension. Fluid, if you're in like water, lava. You can check the light source and the light like power. You can check your exact position. You can see if there's smoke, and you can check for specific structures. But in this case, we're just going to do block, and we need another object. And now you can see different items here. So we can specifically state what block we want to look for by using blocks. We can check a block component. We can check a block MBT. We can check block their own predicates, or we can check a block state. Since we're using stone, it won't actually have a state. So we're just going to check directly for the block type itself. So we'll use blocks right here. And we're going to go ahead and set up Minecraft stone. There we go. Perfect. So now basically what this does is we're currently checking at a location for stone. However, right now, the way this is working is it's specifically going to check that like block. What we want to do is we actually want to check to see if it's below where we're going to be standing. So what we need now is what's called an offset. So this offset basically allows you to check, if it's offset on the X axis, the Y axis, or the Z axis. Since we want it below us, that's going to be at Y level. So we want offset Y, and we're going to check -1 because we want it to be below us. So now we have the onstone predicate. Wonderful. So now what we can do is in our tick function, so go ahead and open that up. And this is from our previous episode where we put the gold block on top of the emerald block to run this function. So if it's true. And notice how this uses if block. What we can do now is actually use what's called if predicate, or you can put it in a selector. So there's two ways of doing it, and I'll show you both real quick. So if we do execute, you can do at a, so execute as at a, and in your selector you can actually do what's called predicate in the selector. If you do predicate in the selector, it's always going to be based on the location of that selector already. So our predicate, even though it already technically does use what's called a location, option, it's always going to be running where at A or all players are regardless. So in the selector, it runs it at that location. If you're doing it as if predicate, then this is going to be based on the location of the execution of the command. So if, let's say, we just do execute if predicate on stone by itself, then it's going to check at the command block's location, or technically, since this is a data pack, it's going to be, at the server's location. So what you would have to do is, if you do it if the predicate method, you'd have to do execute as a if predicate. So it'll be my pack on stone because it knows that we're checking a predicate. But you would also need at s, because otherwise it wouldn't know where that player is to check the correct stone. So here, what we're doing is we're executing as all players at our location, checking to see if that stone predicate is accurate, because we want to check for stone below us. And now we can do run, say, stepping on stone. So if we go ahead and save this, let's go ahead and get back into Minecraft. Let me hide that real quick. Go back to game. Let's go ahead and reload. So now what will happen is if we step on stone, we will see stepping on stone. Perfect. But what about the other option? So let's go ahead and bring that back up, and we'll do it this way. So execute as, and again, we can do the predicate in the selector, and predicate will be Minecraft my pack on stone. Perfect. And we can do this. So save. So now, since we're executing as a predicate my pack on stone, and this is already checking the location because it's in the target selector, you don't need at s. So either option works. So actually, you know what? Let's just leave it like that. So let's just save. Let's go back to the game real quick. Let's hide that. Back to game. Reload. And it'll now work again, because now we're checking based on location in that selector. Or again, you could do execute as a at s if predicate, stuff like that. Either way works. Honestly, I think it's personally easier to do it within the selector, because you're already checking at that location, so you don't need to at s or at that location. It just depends on how you want to personally code it. Either way is perfectly fine. So now let's go ahead and see how we can get if I'm sneaking, which is super easy to do. So let's go ahead and open our code back up, and let's go ahead and create another predicate. So if we click on the predicate folder, new file, and we're going to do is sneaking.json. So this is going to be what's called the entity properties condition. So the entity properties allows you to check for properties of a entity. So we're going to start off with another object. We can use, the condition. And for this one, we need what's called entity properties. So it automatically brings up entity properties. Excellent. And what we want to do is, first, you can do predicate or you can do entity. Either way you do it is fine. It doesn't have to be in a specific order, as long as the format of the file itself is correct. So let's just go ahead and start off with entity first. And this basically just tells you what entity we want to check the predicate for. So we'll do entity right there, and there's a few different options. So as you can see, there's attacker. So basically this just means whoever the attacker is, if you're checking for, attack damage. Attacking player, again, is whoever's attacking. Direct attacker is pretty much all the same thing for attackers. Interacting entity is what entity you're interacting with. Target entity is what target someone or that entity is targeting. And then this just means the current entity that the predicate is for. I would recommend always just using this because this makes it a little bit easier to, work with. These ones, can be easy to use, but they're confusing at the same time. I would recommend just using entity this the entire time, because technically when you run a predicate, you're always going to be checking based on whatever entity you already want in the first place. So entity this is going to work out perfectly fine. So we need another item, so comma, and now we need our predicate. And this predicate is going to start off with another object. And as you can see, there's a whole bunch of, different options, again, that we can check. What we want to do is find what's called the type to tell us what type of entity we're looking for. So since we want to do it for the player, here we go, here's type. And now we can put in the type that we want, and that's going to be Minecraft, and that's going to be player. There we go, player. So now what we need is to see if we're sneaking, and the way we can do that is what's called flags. So anytime like a player has any sort of like feature or function that they're doing, like sneaking, crawling, stuff like that, that flag is going to be active on that player. So what we can do is flags, and flags is also going to be an object, and we need to basically check which flag that we want. So if they're swimming, if they're sprinting, if they're sneaking, which is what we want, if they're on the ground, if we're on fire, if we're flying, or if we're a baby. But we're not a baby. Villagers can be babies. So if you're checking the predicate for a villager, you can check if they're a baby villager. You can check if a zombie is a baby zombie, stuff like that. So let's go ahead and do is sneaking. And the flags for these will be true or false. So we want to check for true. Excellent. And then finally, technically, we're done. So this is just basically going to say, if this entity is a player and our flag is true, predicate is correct. So let's leave it like this for now. But I'll show you how we can actually combine this into another, predicate type, so we can check for kind of multiple things at once. So we now have is sneaking. So in our tick function, we can now do execute as a, and again, we can do if predicate my pack is sneaking, run, say I'm sneaking. This technically will work as is, because since sneaking, we're not actually checking for a specific location of that stone, this will be fine. So let's go ahead and save this. Let's go ahead and get back into our game. Let's reload. And now I'm sneaking. Perfect. Or again, you could do it within the selector. So execute at a predicate equals my pack is sneaking. Either option is going to be perfectly fine. So now what we want to do is I specifically want to check that I'm sneaking, but only if I'm sneaking on sand. Otherwise, I don't want I'm sneaking to show up if I'm on grass. So how do we do that? Well, super easy. Let's go ahead and open up our code again. And let's go ahead and create a different, actually, Yeah, let's create a new predicate actually, just to kind of show you real fast. So we're gonna do a new file, and we can do is sneaking on sand.json. I like to, just kind of like make the names as clear as possible so we know exactly like what that predicate is doing. It just makes it cleaner. You can do whatever you want, but again, this just makes it nicer. So for this one, we basically can just literally copy our is sneaky one because we need to have that as the base, but we need to also check for that location. However, since the location check is technically a condition, you could technically have another condition, but an easier way is to actually keep using the predicate, because under that predicate, there's also an ability for us to check what's called stepping on. So stepping on, here it is right here, will allow us to see what we're currently stepping on or walking on. So what we can do in here is start off with another object, and same thing, we can check, for the different, items right here, because stepping on is essentially similar to what we had checked before with location check and the predicate for the location check. So we want, in this case, block again. And this block is going to start off with another object. And, you could, again, check specific components, MBT, predicate, state, but sand isn't going to really have any of that. So we want to go for the specific type of block. So blocks is going to be Minecraft sand. Excellent. So now this is complete. What this is doing is, again, it's checking for an entity property of this. It's checking for the type of a player, so it's only going to work for players. We're checking to see if our flag of sneaking is true, and we're checking to see if we're stepping on specifically sand. So now in our tick function, we can actually change this now to is sneaking on sand. Save that, and let's go back to game, and let's reload. Anytime you make changes, you always have to reload. So now what will happen is, notice how it is no longer running if we're sneaking just on grass. It won't work if we're sneaking on the emerald. It won't work if we're sneaking on this wool. It'll only work if we're sneaking on sand. Awesome. So as you can see, predicates are, super powerful. It really allows you to kind of like do whatever you need. It can check, we're walking on stone. It can check, we're sneaking on sand. There's so many more things that predicates can do. Miso generator has wonderful generators, especially predicate generator, where you can kind of test, the different things and different conditions that a predicate can do. So definitely check out Miso to check out the different predicate options. Otherwise, I will see you all in the next episode. Feel free to drop a comment if you have any, questions. Again, join our Discord if you would like. If you have any, predicates / suggestions you want to potentially see, let me know, and I will see you all next time. Bye, friends.